Okay, so this video continues from the previous video. I now have 4 images, and this is just a little sprite that I modeled and created in 3D Studio Max in my 2410 class. And I have 4 copies, and I want now for each of those copies, now before I did this I should have converted them to black and white. I'm going to show you how to do that. I didn't, so I can delete them all and do this again. I just want to show you how to copy that. Shift, hit the trash can, and delete the selected layers. Yes. Oh, okay, I ended up with this guy. Alright, so I want to convert him to black and white first because that is what we need to do to be able to create this assignment. And so in order to do that, you're going to go to Image, Adjustments. I've been teaching 3D Studio Max, so now I've got my commands all backwards. Okay, so Image, Adjustments, and these are where we're going to control and change the appearance of the image. And this is what makes Photoshop Photoshop. Okay, so if I want to convert it to black and white, I'll go to Adjustments, Black and White, and you want to use that rather than desaturate. Desaturate will make decisions about what it's going to do. In fact, I don't see it in here. It looks like they've taken it out maybe. Oh no, it's right there. Don't use desaturate. Use black and white. Because what it's going to do is allow you to decide how you want, and look what happens. Okay, there's not a whole lot of red in this, so you're not seeing a whole lot of changes there. But let's go to the greens. There's a lot of green. Look what happens when I make adjustments to this. I can brighten, flatten, or I can increase contrast. And that is a much nicer image. There was some cyan in here, so kind of like that. Okay, so you can control these sliders so that you end up with an end result that you like. For the sake of this assignment, that looks about right. So I'm going to say OK. And it will convert my image, which I'm going to rename, by the way, but it will convert my image to black and white as a great place to start. So I'm now going to come over here and I'm going to rename that Sprite. And he's going to go in the upper left-hand corner. So I'm going to call him Sprite UL. And this makes it easier to manage the parts and pieces once you start getting really, really up there with a whole bunch of layers. This makes it easier to manage. You can also work with folders. Folders. You can create a folder. That should be folder. Okay, new group. They're calling it groups now instead of folders. Okay, so you can create a new folder, create a new group, and put documents in groups to manage those better. All right, so I've selected him, and I'm going to Layer, Duplicate Layer. And instead of upper left, he's going to be upper right. Oops, L's still in there. And click and pull him off. And so now I have my 2 there. Again, I can, and remember, you're selecting over here in your layers. You're not selecting in the document. This is completely different than most programs. Most programs you select here. In Photoshop, you select in your layer panel. Okay, so now I'm going to select both of these. Layer, duplicate layers, and I'll say OK, and then I can come back and rename them. Pull those down. And now I can come back here and rename them. And this one is, just double click on it. And this one is lower right. And that guy over there is lower left, LL. Now, I'm going to encourage you to pick names that you remember, that you work with, that work for you, because this is your document that you're working on. And if it doesn't make sense to you, if this doesn't work for you, then it's not helpful. It's not letting me change the name of that one. There we go, background. Usually it calls it background, but not sure why it didn't here. All right, and so now I have this set up where I can begin to work with additional layers. I want to create new layers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer by coming down here next to the trash can at the bottom of the layer dialog and create new layer. And the nice thing about Photoshop, you hover over stuff, it tells you what it is. So I'm going to create a new layer, and then I'm going to move that layer here. I'm going to create another new layer, and I'm going to move it here. I'm going to create another new layer, and I'm going to move it here. I'm going to create a fourth layer, and I'm going to move it here. And so each one of these layers is going to work with the layer below it. Okay? And I'm going to rename these so that I know that they are attached to each one of the layers. Okay? So this would be color, sprite, UL. Okay? And so I know that those two are connected. And I know that this one goes with this one. So on my first layer here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you in the next video actually how to work with applying color, and then I'm going to also work with these blending modes. And how this layer interacts with the layer below it is going to be a lot like stacking pages and then modifying the ones on top to control how they interact with the ones below. Okay, so one of the difficult things about getting comfortable with Photoshop is learning how to work with its layer system. In layer system, you can think of each one of these as a document in a stack, like a cake. And the one on the bottom is right here on the bottom. So this is literally on the bottom. The one above it is the next one in the stack, the next one in the stack. And so it creates this series of layers that are a stack. And when you are looking at this stack from this view, you're literally looking down the stack this way, right? So you're looking, your eyes are here looking down this way. And what's on top is what you see on top. Now, because that upper layer is blank, I'm seeing through it. And because this layer is smaller, I'm seeing all the other layers through it. So this layer is only this big. So that means I can, by looking down, I can still see these other layers. If this layer, where the squares are, if that was white and it was solid, I wouldn't be able to see anything below it. And so what we work with are these blending modes to be able to see through them, to apply them, and to work with them. And I'm going to continue this in the next video.